My name is Dorian Hale. I'm 36 years old, and I've been a corporate attorney in Denver, Colorado for the past 12 years. I always believed that my marriage to Celine was built on solid ground. 8 years together, a beautiful house in Cherry Creek, and what I thought was mutual respect and love. I was wrong about the last part. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. March 15 started like any other Tuesday morning. Celine came down to the kitchen wearing her navy business suit, heels clicking against our hardwood floors. She poured herself coffee from our Keurig and barely looked at me while scrolling through her iPhone. "I've been thinking about that spa retreat I mentioned," she said, not lifting her eyes from the screen. "The one in Sedona. I really need to detox from all this stress at work." I nodded, buttering my toast. Celine worked as a marketing director at Pinnacle Solutions, a mid-sized consulting firm downtown. The job paid well, around $95,000 a year, but she'd been complaining about burnout for months. "When are you thinking?" I asked. "This weekend, maybe extended through next week." I found this amazing place called Desert Serenity Wellness Center. It's perfect for disconnecting from everything. Something felt off. Celine had never been the type to seek out spiritual healing or meditation retreats. She was more likely to unwind with shopping at Cherry Creek Mall or drinks with her girlfriends at Union Station. But stress affects people differently, I reasoned. "How much?" I asked, reaching for my wallet. "Don't worry about it. I'll use my credit card. This is something I need to do for myself." She kissed my cheek, the first physical contact we'd had in weeks, and headed out to her silver Audi Q5. I watched from our bay window as she backed out of our driveway, noting how she immediately started talking on her phone the moment she thought she was out of sight. The next few days passed quietly. Celine texted sporadically about her transformative experience and how the desert air was cleansing her soul. The messages were brief and came at odd hours. When I tried calling, it went straight to voicemail. She claimed the retreat required participants to limit outside communication. By Thursday evening, I was channel surfing when my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. It was a tagged photo from Jake Morrison, a 24-year-old assistant at Sealand's company. I'd met him at a few office Christmas parties. Cocky kid fresh out of CU Boulder. The type who wore expensive sneakers to work and called everyone bro. The photo showed Jake grinning at a poolside bar, tropical drink in hand, with the caption, "Paradise Found." Sometimes you gotta treat yourself, right? Best life ever. Tank's tropical vibes. My blood went cold. In the background, partially hidden behind a palm tree, but unmistakably clear, was Celine. She wore a red bikini I'd never seen before and was laughing at something Jake had said. The location tag read Maui Grand Resort and Spa, Hawaii. I stared at that photo for a long time. Desert Serenity Wellness Center in Sedona. Right. I'm a lawyer. I've spent years learning to control my emotions, to think strategically rather than react impulsively. The old me might have called her immediately, screaming about lies and betrayal. But 12 years of corporate litigation had taught me something valuable. The person who gathers the best evidence wins. I screenshot the photo and began my investigation. That Friday morning, I called in sick to my firm, Henderson & Associates. For the first time in 3 years, I used a personal day for something that actually mattered. I spent the morning in my home office, surrounded by legal pads and my laptop, approaching this like any other case. First, I accessed our joint checking and savings accounts through Wells Fargo's online portal. Celine had withdrawn $5,000 in cash the week before her retreat. Money I'd assumed went towards spa treatments and healthy meals. The ATM receipts show withdrawals from 3 different locations. One near her office, one at Denver International Airport, and one that made my stomach turn, Kahului Airport in Maui. I printed everything. Bank statements, credit card bills, phone records. Our Verizon account showed her phone had been pinging cell towers across the Hawaiian Islands for the past 4 days, not Arizona desert towers, as her story would suggest. Then I did what any good attorney does when building a case. I gathered character witnesses and background information. I called Greg Patterson, a private investigator I'd worked with on several corporate fraud cases. Dorian, good to hear from you. Greg said, what can I do for you? I need background checks on 2 people, discreet and thorough. Can you handle that? Of course. Who are we looking into? I gave him Celine's and Jake's full names, birth dates, and social security numbers. In Colorado, spouses have legal access to each other's financial records, but I wanted more than just numbers. I wanted to understand what I was really dealing with. Greg called back Monday afternoon while I was reviewing contract for a merger between 2 tech startups. Dorian, we need to meet. This is bigger than a simple affair. We met at Sam's Number 3, a diner on Curtis Street that's been serving Denver since 1927. Greg slid a manila folder across the red vinyl booth. Your wife and her boyfriend have been busy, he said, keeping his voice low. Jake Morrison isn't just some assistant. He's got a record. 3 arrests for identity theft in California before he moved to Colorado. Charges were dropped each time, but the pattern's there. I opened the folder. Police reports, credit applications, employment history. Jake had worked at 4 different companies in the past 2 years, always in entry-level positions with access to executive information. And Celine? I asked. Clean record. But here's where it gets interesting. Greg pulled out a second set of documents. I ran financial analysis on both of them. In the past 8 months, they've deposited over $300,000 in cash into separate accounts at different banks. Small amounts, never more than $9,000 at a time to avoid federal reporting requirements. I felt the pieces clicking into place like a puzzle. They're working together. That's what it looks like. But it gets worse. Greg leaned forward. I found communications between Celine and 3 different executives from companies around Denver. Blackmailed Dorian photos compromising situations. Pay for silence arrangements. The coffee in my stomach turned bitter. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was running a criminal enterprise. I need copies of everything. I said, already made them. But Dorian, if you're thinking about going to police, I'm not thinking about it. I'm going to do it. But first I need to protect myself. That evening, I took several decisive steps. I transferred all funds from our joint accounts into a new account under my name only, leaving exactly $1 in each joint account to keep them technically active. Colorado is an equitable distribution state, so I was entitled to protect marital assets from criminal activity. I called a locksmith and had every lock in our house changed. New deadbolts, new garage door codes, everything. Then I called a security company and changed all the access codes, removing Sealand's fingerprint and key fob access. Next, I contacted Michael Brennan, the senior partner at Pinnacle Solutions. Mike and I worked together on several deals over the years, and I knew he valued integrity above everything else. Mike, I need to report a serious compliance issue involving one of your employees. I said, what kind of issue? Celine Hale is engaging in criminal activity that could expose your firm to massive liability. She's using her position to target executives for blackmail schemes. The silence on the other end lasted nearly 10 seconds. Can you prove this? He asked finally. I have documentation, bank records, communications, evidence of multiple victims. This needs to be handled immediately before it destroys your company's reputation. Bring me everything tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. sharp, Wednesday morning. I sat in Mike's corner office on the 20th floor of Republic Plaza, watching his face grow paler with each document I presented. Bank deposits, email printouts, photos of Celine and Jake with various business executives in compromising situations. Jesus Christ, Mike whispered, studying a particularly damaging photo. This is David Kellerman from Mountain States Energy. If this gets out, it won't if you handle this correctly. I said, fire her immediately. Cooperate fully with law enforcement. Distance your firm from her actions before the FBI gets involved. The FBI? Wire fraud, extortion, conspiracy across state lines. This is federal territory now. Mike picked up his phone and called HR. Within an hour, Sealand's employment was terminated, her company credit cards kinled, and her access to all Pinnacle systems revoked. I drove home that afternoon feeling something I hadn't experienced in months, control. For the first time since discovering that photo, I knew exactly what would happen next. Celine would return from her fake retreat to find her entire world dismantled. No job, no access to our house, no access to our money, and soon no freedom at all. The best part, she'd done it all to herself. Thursday evening, I was in my study reviewing case files when I heard a car door slam in the driveway. Through the window, I watched the taxi pull away as Celine walked toward the front door, dragging a bright pink suitcase behind her. She looked tanned and relaxed, her hair lightened by the Hawaiian sun. I heard her key turn in the lock, then the frustrated jiggle when it didn't work. She tried again, then knocked. "Dorian, the key isn't working. Can you open the door?" I took my time walking to the foyer, savoring the moment. When I opened the door, her smile faded immediately. "What's going on? Why doesn't my key work?" "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "We need to talk." She entered cautiously, leaving her suitcase by the door. Her eyes darted around the living room as if something had changed, though everything looked exactly the same. "How was Sedona?" I asked, settling into my leather recliner. "It was transformative. Really peaceful. I feel so much better." She sat on the edge of the couch, her body language tense. "Why did you change the locks?" I pulled out my phone and showed her Jake's Instagram photo. Her face went white. "I can explain," she started. "I'm sure you can, but let me explain something first." I leaned forward. "Your employment at Pinnacle Solutions was terminated Wednesday morning. Your company credit cards have been canceled. Our joint accounts have been frozen by a court order pending a criminal investigation." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Criminal investigation?" she whispered. "Wire fraud, extortion, conspiracy. The FBI will probably want to talk to you soon." Celine stood up abruptly, her hands shaking. "You don't understand. It's not what it looks like really, because it looks like you and Jake Morrison have been blackmailing executives for months. It looks like you deposited over $300,000 in illegal proceeds. It looks like you use your position at Pinnacle to identify targets and gain access to compromising situations." She began pacing around the living room. "Those men deserved it. They're all corrupt, cheating on their wives, making deals under the table. We were just what? Extorting them. That's still a federal crime. Celine." She stopped pacing and stared at me. "How do you know all this?" "I'm a lawyer. Research is what I do." I stood up and walked to the fireplace mantel, where I'd placed a neat stack of documents. Bank records, communications, photographs, witness statements, everything the FBI needs for a conviction. "You turned me in." Her voice cracked. "Your own wife." "My wife wouldn't lie to me about spa retreats while running criminal schemes. My wife wouldn't steal from our joint accounts to fund Hawaiian getaways with her 24-year-old boyfriend." Celine sank back onto the couch, her head in her hands. "What happens now?" "Now you call a criminal defense attorney. A good one. You're going to need it." My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. Actually, that might not be necessary much longer. Jake was arrested an hour ago at Denver International Airport trying to board a flight to Mexico City. He had $50,000 in cash and a fake passport. Celine's head snapped up. Jake was arrested. Turns out he was already under investigation for identity theft in California. When the FBI connected him to the blackmail scheme, they moved fast. He's probably telling them everything right now in exchange for a lighter sentence. She started crying then. Ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I felt nothing. No pity, no anger, no satisfaction. Just a cold certainty that justice was being served. "Why didn't you just talk to me?" she asked through her tears. "If you suspected something, why didn't you confront me?" "Because confronting you would have given you time to destroy evidence and disappear. This way, everyone faces the consequences of their choices." The doorbell rang through the window. I could see two people in dark suits standing on the porch. "That would be the FBI," I said, walking toward the door. Agent Sarah Martinez and Agent Robert Chin introduced themselves with professional courtesy. Celine remained on the couch, no longer crying, but staring at the floor with empty eyes. "Mrs. Hale," Agent Martinez said, "we have some questions about your recent activities." You have the right to remain silent. As they read Selena, her Miranda rights, I retreated to the kitchen and made myself a cup of coffee. Through the doorway, I could hear Agent Chin asking about bank deposits, travel records, and communications with various executives around Denver. Selene requested an attorney, which was smart. The questioning stopped, but the handcuffs came out. Am I under arrest? She asked as Agent Martinez secured the cuffs behind her back. Yes, ma'am. You're being charged with wire fraud, extortion, and conspiracy to commit federal crimes. They walked her toward the door. As they passed the kitchen, Selene looked at me one last time. I hope you're happy, she said. I'm not happy or unhappy, I replied. I'm just making sure the right thing happens. After they left, I sat in my study and poured myself 2 fingers of Macallan 18. The house felt different, quieter, cleaner somehow. My phone rang. It was Greg Patterson. Saw the news about the arrests. He said, "How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected." "What's the word on the other victims?" "Relief, mostly. 3 executives are breathing easier knowing they won't be extorted anymore. David Kellerman from Mountain States Energy called to thank you personally. I didn't do this for them." "I know, but you saved them anyway." After hanging up, I walked around the house checking locks and turning off lights. Tomorrow, I would start the divorce proceedings. Next week, I would testify before a federal grand jury. But tonight, for the first time in months, I would sleep peacefully. The truth has a way of making everything else fall into place. 6 months later, I sat in the federal courthouse on Stout Street, watching Selene stand before Judge Patricia Hawkins for sentencing. The courtroom was packed with victims, prosecutors, and reporters. The Denver Post had been covering the case extensively under the headline, "Cherry Creek Blackmail Ring Exposed by Victim's Husband." Selene had aged visibly during her time in county jail, awaiting trial. Her hair had grown out, showing gray roots she'd always been careful to hide. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit that hung loose on her diminished frame. "Mrs. Hale," Judge Hawkins said, "you plead guilty to 14 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of extortion, and conspiracy to commit federal crimes. The prosecution has presented evidence of damages exceeding $600,000 to 7 victims across Colorado and Wyoming." I watched Selene's shoulders shake as the full scope of her crimes was read into the record. Jake had indeed cooperated with federal prosecutors, providing detailed testimony about their operations in exchange for a reduced sentence of 3 years. His cooperation had revealed the true extent of their scheme, far beyond what even I had discovered. The court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You're ordered to pay full restitution to all victims, totaling $618,000. 8 years. Selene would be 42 when she got out, assuming good behavior. Jake would be 27 when he finished his 3-year sentence. Their lives were effectively over. As the bailiff led her away, Selena looked back at me one final time. I saw no anger in her eyes anymore, just exhaustion and regret. I felt nothing. Outside the courthouse, several of the victims approached me. David Kellerman from Mountain States Energy shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Hale, I can't thank you enough. What you did took tremendous courage. I just did what any citizen should do when they discover criminal activity." "Still," said Patricia Stein, CEO of Stein Marketing Group, "you could have handled this quietly, gotten your divorce, and moved on. Instead, you made sure justice was served for all of us." She was right. Of course, I could have confronted Selene privately, demanded a divorce settlement, and let her criminal activities continue. But that wouldn't have been justice. That would have been complicity. The legal proceedings had taken their toll on my career at Henderson and Associates. Too many days in court, too much media attention, too many distractions from billable hours. In July, managing partner William Henderson called me into his office. "Dorian, you know we value your work here," he said, settling behind his massive oak desk. "But the firm needs to maintain a certain profile. All this publicity." "I understand," I said. "You're letting me go. We're restructuring. Your position is being eliminated, but we're offering a generous severance package and, of course, excellent references." I wasn't surprised. Law firms hate controversy, even when their attorneys are the heroes of the story. But I'd been planning for this possibility since the arrests. 2 weeks later, I opened Hale Security Consulting in a small office in Lodo, Denver's lower downtown district. My specialty helping corporations identify and prevent internal fraud schemes. My first client was Pinnacle Solutions. Ironically enough, Mike Brennan wanted to ensure nothing like the Celine situation could happen again. You have a unique perspective on how these schemes work. He told me during our initial consultation. You've seen it from the inside. Within 6 months, I had 12 corporate clients and a waiting list. Companies throughout Colorado and beyond wanted my expertise. I hired 2 investigators, a forensic accountant and a data analyst. What started as personal revenge had become a thriving business built on preventing others from experiencing what I'd gone through. The divorce was finalized in October. Since Celine was incarcerated and facing massive restitution payments, I received the house, our investments, and both vehicles. Colorado's equitable distribution laws worked in my favor when one spouse is a convicted felon. I sold the Cherry Creek house in November. Too many memories, both good and bad. Instead, I bought a modern condo in Union Station with Florida windows overlooking the mountains. It felt like a fresh start. On New Year's Eve, I hosted a small party for my team and some clients. Standing on my balcony, looking out at the Denver skyline, I reflected on the past year. I'd lost a marriage, but gained something more valuable, the knowledge that I could handle anything life threw at me. Patricia Stein approached me with a glass of champagne. Any regrets, Dorian? I thought about it seriously. About exposing the crimes? None. About the marriage ending? I regret that it came to that, but I don't regret how I handled it. What's next for you? Growth. I've got companies in Phoenix and Seattle wanting to hire us. There's talk of franchising the consulting model. Apparently, corporate fraud prevention is a growth industry. And personally, I smiled. I'm learning to trust my instincts again. When something doesn't feel right, I investigate rather than ignore it. That served me well professionally. I expect it will serve me well personally, too. Last month, I received an unexpected letter from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Celine was requesting to add me to her approved visitor list. I threw the letter away without responding. Some chapters of your life need to stay closed. The most satisfying part of this whole experience wasn't seeing Celine in handcuffs or watching Jake plead guilty. It was realizing that I'd built something positive from the ashes of betrayal. Every company I help, every fraud scheme I prevent, every executive who sleeps better knowing their organization is secure, that's my real revenge against what they did to me. Celine and Jake thought they were smart enough to manipulate the system, but they forgot one crucial detail. Sometimes the system fights back. And when it does, it fights with lawyers who understand that the best revenge isn't personal satisfaction. It's ensuring that justice serves everyone. In the end, I didn't just survive their betrayal. I turned it into the foundation of a new life built on helping others avoid what I went through. That's not revenge. That's transformation. If you enjoyed this story, like this video, and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.